Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. Today we are looking at our interior offensive line prospect rankings as we get into the 2022 NFL Draft. Dill, you've been putting most of the time into the offensive line. Here are your ranks. I switched up a little bit on you. You saw a few of the changes that I made. Let's get cracking with these guys. First overall offensive guard, interior guy, Kenyon Green, Zion Johnson, two guys that we have first-round grades on. Basically, what I want to ask you about is how are we distinguishing between Kenyon Green and Zion Johnson? I think we both have them as first-round grades. Many people do. Why are you taking Kenyon Green over Zion Johnson here?
Athleticism. I really don't see Zion Johnson as the elite athlete that Kenyon Green is for that. Yeah, I don't care about that. On the field, you saw Kenyon Green be able to kick out and play a pretty good left tackle. I would have been really shocked if you could have seen Zion Johnson do that. That's essentially my differentiator because obviously they're both good. They're both kind of round one guys. But, yeah, I just see Kenyon Green as a superior athlete on the field. So
what I differentiate with them, and I was chopping it up in the comment section below with a couple people who listen, is I think Kenyon Green's more of a difference maker in terms of moving people around. He's good in pass protection. Like he's solid. Him and Zion are both really solid. But Kenyon Green's he's a man mover. And I think he's going to have a more of an impact on a team than Zion Johnson. However, Zion Johnson probably is just a little bit of a blue chip guy. Like he is a safe pick. You take him in the back end of the first round, like the Bucs, and he's going to be a good center guard for you for 10 years. Both really good guys. I just think Kenyon Green has a little bit more of a higher ceiling when it comes to impacting the game. Let's get to our third guy who we have a second-round grade on. We've been high throughout the process on Jamaree Salyer. I like the fact that you saw him play tackle at a high level. He was the starting left tackle for the national championship Georgia Bulldogs. But I think he's going to be an awesome guard. I think he has a chance to be like an all-pro, solid offensive guard for a team. What do you see there?
Yeah, I mean, he was a hammer all year, I think, part of a really heavy physical team and I think one of the leaders of that bunch. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. You saw him dominate elite competition game in and game out. And yeah, he showed that he's a good athlete, which would have been, if you look at him, maybe the question, because he doesn't look like a guy who would kick out and play tackle well. But
he doesn't look like an athlete when you look at him. But yeah, he is. He's actually pretty good. And he's got some power in his hands. I think he's going to be a great guard. We're going to lump Trevor Penning and Tyler Smith together because I think they're both swing tackle guard guys. We have them both as offensive guards, and they're both guys who are raw physical monsters. Like they're both really good. I think they just are working on that technique. Tyler Smith, more or less. I don't know what was going on at Tulsa, but Tyler Smith's a great athlete, tested really well. You see the power in his hands, but it looks like he just doesn't know the position that well.
I will never be able to make sense of Tulsa offensive line play. Like ever across the board, it didn't make sense. I don't know what exactly they were teaching. So I think him and Chris Paul are in a very like weird spot where like there's like something there, but I just wish you got to see more on the field in an offense that like made sense and allowed these two to show some talents, especially Tyler Smith, because I think he can be a ultra powerful player, and they didn't run downhill like once. So
and they play really wide. I feel like both of them, and they let defensive linemen get their hands on him. Tyler Smith's a guy and Trevor Penning, quite frankly, both have the athletic tools. Like Trevor Penning's an absolute mountain. You saw him play a little guard at the Senior Bowl. I think he looks better there. And I'm happy with starting those two guys out at guard and then seeing if they can play tackle because I think they both could play tackle. I just think they need some work. That's why I had Trevor Penning going to the Cowboys. Like, put him at guard. I think they need more of just a physical interior guy. Trevor Penning's that.
You don't think in round one?
No, yeah, 24. Yeah. It's rich on him, but I like the idea of getting him. I think he'll be a solid guard.
I don't even think he is in Tyler Smith's league personally, but
in terms of ceiling,
well, just like who I draft, I would take Tyler Smith easy. I think Tyler Smith, like Trevor Penning, for all people say about him, is a fairly lean guy who I don't think you saw him killing people in the run game, right? People are just like, they like the length, they like the athleticism,
they like the eye black.
But you didn't see I mean, Tyler Smith looked like a guy. If he got his hands on you, you couldn't get away, and he could move you kind of where he wanted. So that's where I don't know. I think Tyler Smith could be a really good guard. I know most people are projecting him out to be a tackle, but man, I think you pick him higher to play guard than tackle, and if he works out at tackle, great. But
yeah, you get a dog. All right, let's move on to the last two guys we have round 2 grades on. This is much, or day 2 grades on. This is much in my mind a little bit towards the end of day 2. I'm going to change this because I have this labeled wrong. But Ed Ingram and Dylan Parham, what do you see in their games? I know Dylan Parham's kind of a shorter, undersized guy, but plays with great leverage. And Ed Ingram is just a really solid guard. I thought his film at LSU was overall just really solid.
I didn't expect like Ed Ingram was a guy I got to later in the process, just kind of like I don't know. I might have been even watching Chasen Hines and been like, well, this guy he's the better player. He's much more powerful. I don't think he's a great athlete, but he's got the power. I didn't see him getting like victimized in the pass game. The reason I like Dylan Parham is I think he's actually a very good athlete at the guard spot. Mm-hmm. He plays with good leverage, which makes up for the lack of size, which is pretty obvious. But a guy who I think, because he does play with leverage and power, I think he'll be okay, especially if he can put like 10, 15 pounds on.
Yeah, get up to around 295, 300. I think he did measure in a little bit heavier at the combine. Let's get into the day 3 guys. These guys are solid guards who will be good depth guys. A couple of guys.
Cole Strange, I actually think can be a little higher than you think. If you watch him, he looks a little weird out there. Like no wristbands, no gloves, no
swag,
nothing.
no swag.
So he looks like a high schooler in a sense.
Yeah.
But then you watch him against Tennessee, like, okay, that's a decent football team. And he's like, it's weird looking because he also looks super thin and the whole thing's a little odd, but you see him moving guys around and you see like premier athleticism but not lacking in power. I wouldn't call him a finesse guard because he can push guys around. He's tough as nails, and I was like really surprised. I thought he's really good.
He had a couple of good reps at the Senior Bowl too, which is obviously big for a guy that coming out of a small school like that. We do have him as like a fringe, like he could maybe squeak into day 2. The only problem is like at that point, it's like there's some other prospects at different positions that you might have a little bit higher value on. Than picking a potential depth.
Yeah, no, I don't mean to say like he's definitely a day 2 guy. I'm just saying he's a guy who maybe flying under the radar but can play.
Yeah. Marquise Hayes, Justin Schaefer, both just brick houses. Solid depth guys, really hard to just get through. They got strong anchors. Tyler Munford's a guy that I want to talk about because I mean a lot of people had him had a first round grade on him coming into the season. And then he was an All-American tackle. If he left last year, I think he would have probably been a day 2 pick. I think he slides into day 3, and just because the film at guard was not good, they moved him, didn't look good. Then they tried him out of tackle, he didn't.
Wasn't good.
He looked like a different.
It was a weird year. Yeah,
it was a weird year.
Just didn't look the same. It didn't look as athletic. Didn't look as just sharp. He wasn't like sharp. He got I don't know. It was weird, and I don't know if it was that moving him to guard later in the year so they could get their best 5, which I'm sure is what they were trying to do. But you're right. I don't see how you can take him in the first 3 rounds at this rate of what he showed this year.
Cade Mays is a guy that 5-star recruit, obviously going to Georgia, transferred to Tennessee. He just hasn't really seemed to find his footing. I wasn't impressed with what I saw at the Senior Bowl. I just think he has a lot of holes in his game. I think he'll get drafted. That's why he made the list. But it's just there's some stuff there that needs to be figured out with him. And it's
you just never put it together. You're right.
He just never really put it together.
Just never showed like he looked good. He had a good like looking frame to him, and
he was a good recruit coming out.
Just never played particularly great football at either school, and obviously went from Georgia to Tennessee. But
and then Stoops finally. As much as you guys know, I'm openly like I'm optimistic about a lot of the Michigan talent. You guys saw that with Aiden Hutchinson. I don't really see it with Stoops. He played tackle at Michigan. He looked solid. I think he was a solid right tackle. And then he'll play guard in the NFL, but 6'7", 340 pounds, but he doesn't have a great anchor. Like he gets moved around a little bit. I don't think he's any phenomenal athlete. The frame's good. Like he's built. It just there's not much like there's nothing that really like I love about his game.
The only thing about him is he's a guy who developed from a really poor player probably 2 or 3 years ago.
That is true.
He's gotten better every year.
Yeah.
In this year, he was actually a very good college guard or tackle in a scheme that fit him very well, much more of a power downhill, not being asked to do difficult things in the pass game, which helps because he's not an elite pass pro, but I don't know. I think Stuber can make a decent career as like a
Benny Bredesen like maybe
guard. No, I don't think he's Ben Bredesen good, but
all right.
Bredesen was good.
Yeah, that is true. And he's actually putting it together a solid NFL career. That does it for our offensive guards. Let us know if we left some guys out that you think should make the list. We'll check their film out.
Besides the fact we didn't talk about Lasita Smith or Chase Hines, who in fairness, not a ton to talk about.
That's kind of why I
think people
skipped
are too high. I think people are a little too high on Lasita Smith. I don't see anything that like pops out. Not a particularly powerful player, not an elite athlete by any means. So I'm always surprised when I see people putting him up in like the second or third round.
Yeah.
So
I've seen him higher, and then I thought he was like going to be a good player. I went and checked him out, and it was like, again, the guys the day 3 grades are just there's nothing that's extremely exciting.
And like a pro player, but I just like not a guy you're picking high. He's like maybe a depth guard. Same with Chase Hines. You're really again another guy who just doesn't pop out for you. Like when you watch, you notice much more of Ed Ingram. Sorry, I noticed. So it's like you really got to kind of show something at guard because it's not a high value draft position. And I think you're right. Besides Cole Strange, who I think you're sleeping on, the other guys in the day 3 grades are just showed solid play, but nothing like to write.
Tyler Munford is the one guy that I just wanted to highlight because it was just weird what happened to him. You want to talk about guys who have an impact on the field. Tyler Linderbaum, our first center. This was a no-brainer. First round grade on this kid. I say it all the time. He could be taken 11 to the Commanders, and I would say that's a good pick.
You could make an argument he was the best player in college football.
You absolutely could.
He was so good.
The film is just phenomenal. Like I think we've talked enough about the film in terms of he's an elite athlete. Like the movement skills are nuts. People say like let's talk about the biggest knock is how is he going to handle bigger, more physical defensive tackles at the next level? He didn't have a single problem with a single.
I don't know how he did it in college against good players.
Whatever way he played at Iowa, I'm fine with him playing that at the next level. This guy is so good at working up to linebackers. He's so good at using his body and leverage to move guys around. Again, he's not the most big guy, but he's physically dominant. He's a great athlete. He's an all-around awesome center. And you saw a guy like Creed Humphrey fall to the bottom of the second round because he was a center. And guess what? He's one of the best centers in NFL right now. Tyler Linderbaum is going to be worth top 20 pick. Whoever gets him, I think, is going to be extremely happy and immediately upgrades to center spot. Let's talk about a guy that I think is way too slept on, and he's rising up the ranks because he had a decent combine. Zach Tom from Wake Forest is a guy that he wasn't a high recruit. He's a 2-star recruit from Louisiana, but he just is rock solid. I've been watching him at Wake for years now. I think he started as a redshirt freshman at center, played 2 years at center, and then went and played 2 years at tackle. They basically moved him to tackle because he was their best offensive lineman. And so you might as well have your best offensive lineman playing left tackle. Called out the coverages. He's a very smart kid and a way better athlete than people give him credit for. Now he's not
the only major concern with him is power because you saw him get pushed around a little bit at Wake at center.
But I think that changed because he was still like a developing kid. He was still
I know, but I wish you got to see him play center at his higher when peak. He was like a very good left tackle. Like, you didn't notice it.
Yeah.
But the last time I remember him at center, I do remember thinking like a good D tackle pushes him around a little.
He was also playing at 290. And he was no Tyler Linderbaum as an athlete. And
I know, but that's what I'm saying is you miss out because I don't think he's an elite tackle. I think you're probably drafting him to play center, and I just wish we got to see him play his best football at center. I would like to.
He did. I mean, in his 5th year, he was a first team All ACC tackle. He was.
I think he's really good at. He's a really good player.
And it's not the
I
center
just
class outside of Tyler Linderbaum is nothing crazy. Our next guy, Cam Jurgens, is a lot of ways a poor man's Tyler Linderbaum. He's a very good athlete. He's good
yeah.
pulling. He's good with the reach blocks, good working up to linebackers. My worry is he is undersized like Tyler Linderbaum, but it shows on the film. Tyler Linderbaum's undersized for sure, but he doesn't show up on the film. Like he still dominates everybody. Cam Jurgens against physical defense tackles gets bullied a little bit. I worry about that at the next level. He needs to put on 10 pounds. Like 291 pounds is just not going to cut it. Probably get up to 300 pounds. Hopefully he keeps that athleticism because he is a very good athlete. That's why
I mean,
have him.
he's a guy who I would have to think can put some weight on because he was like as athletic as Linderbaum.
Yeah, he's a great athlete.
He didn't have the other part of the game, but
yeah,
elite athleticism. So
and
you put 10 pounds on, he might be really tough.
Alec Lindstrom is kind of the same way. He's a really solid guy. He moves really well. And that's kind of the story of the center spot for a lot of these guys like Linderbaum, Jurgens, Lindstrom is they're really good athletes. They're not like physically dominant, but they're very athletic and can move up to linebackers at the next level. Another guy who day 2 might be a little rich for Alec Lindstrom. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw him fall to day 3, but I do like the film. And then Donovan West and Luke Fortner, solid guys. Luke Fortner specifically, I worry a little bit. I don't know if you remember his teammate Drake Jackson. Was it last year?
Yeah, they were the opposite.
Yeah, Drake Jackson just not physical enough. Like he was a sick athlete too, but when you really can't deal with the most physical defensive tackles, that becomes a problem.
Yeah, I don't love like the 6'6", 300 pounds. That's like tough because you can't play with some leverage when you're weighing less than 315. You're probably gonna have some problems with the big dogs.
I think Drake Jackson
NFL,
had the same thing. Drake Jackson was a little bit shorter.
He's also not a feet mover. But like Luke Fortner, I'd probably have I don't know. I wouldn't change any. These are very similar to like the guards. It's like they just don't pop up to you.
Yeah, and that's why they have day 3 grades. Like they'll be solid guys that you want to have as a depth guy, but I don't think outside of even Alec Lindstrom and Cam Jurgens probably won't be week 1 starters as rookies. Zach Tom might not even be either. I think the only sure one is Tyler Linderbaum. And that's kind of why you have a day 3 grade on a couple of those centers. That's our list for interior offensive line. We obviously appreciate the support you guys have showed to the channel. Let us know in the comment section what we're missing out on. Obviously, there's a lot of prospects. Dylan and I are we do our best to get our eyes on each of these guys. But if we're missing out on a guy, let us know. We obviously love watching the film. We love chopping it up about ball in the comment section with y'all. Appreciate you guys watching, and we'll be back with some more NFL draft content later. Peace, y'all.